Yeah, there's a very But let's plow ahead. Let's plow ahead. Get started. So today we're talking about what is called the daily office, which is monastery talk for scheduled prayer times throughout the day. Which is because we're going through this emotionally healthy spirituality book, and this is the next chapter. It also talks about Sabbath, but we've kind of studied Sabbath pretty frequently. Josh and Garrison both have led stuff on it recently, so I decided to make tonight about pretty much just about the daily office. So Trappist monks will do this 7 times a day, including one at 3:45 a.m. where they get up in the middle of the night to because the day, doing it all day long is not enough. You gotta wake up in the middle of the night to do it. But the Scazzero guy who writes this book, he does it 4 times a day, and he was talking about how he used to try to coast off of his morning devotional, and that would carry him through the first half of his day, pretty close to God, and then about 2/3 into his day, he'd have completely forgotten about God. And I was like, dang, 2/3 of your day is pretty good. I mean, that's kind of been my experience. I mostly coast off of the morning thing, and it takes me pretty far. But yeah, I'm not Brother Lawrence over here. But what he claimed is that the daily office practiced consistently actually eliminates any division of the sacred and the secular in our lives. And I know that a bunch of us want that, this sense that there is no difference between what is sacred and what is secular. When I'm working as if I'm doing it for God. I'm doing it in partnership with God. I know I've heard a bunch of us talk about wanting that. So here's my challenge today. And this is basically what tonight's completely about, is whatever you're doing, commit to one more time of prayer, scheduled in prayer. If you're doing 1 in the morning, do 2. If you're doing 0, do 1. If you're doing 2, do 3. If you're doing 4, you're probably fine. You're at Pete Scazzero level, and you're probably fine. But yeah, we could stop right there and just be all right, we all committed, and go home. If you guys are ready for that, we can do that. But I know my job is to get you guys amped up about this sort of thing. So we're gonna try to get you guys pumped. So this passage is I think it gets to the why of our daily times, and it's the last thing that Jesus prays right before he is arrested and then murdered. This is the prayer at the end of John right before he's arrested. So could somebody read? Esther, can you read it for us? So
they also be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. I have given them the glory that you gave me. They may be one as we are one. I and them and you and me, so that they may be brought to complete unity. Then the world will know that you sent me and have loved them even as you have loved me. Father, I want those you have given to me to be with me where I am, and to see my glory, the glory you have given me because you loved me before the creation of the world. Righteous Father, though the world does not know you, I know you, and they know that you sent me. I have made you known to them, and continue to make you known in order that to love you utterly, maybe in them, and that I myself may know.
Take a few minutes and look at the passage and ask yourself the questions. These are the questions I'm going to ask. What does it mean to be in God? What does it mean to have God in you? Have you experienced that? And what is life like when you've experienced that? So what does it mean for God to be in you? What does it mean for you to be in God? Which I'm not saying that those are different, but maybe they are. And then have you experienced that, and what has it been like? You guys can also sit in the power wheel if you want. I want someone to pull it up over right here.
There. Those are really easier. And there's two over here that you can move.
Here, you come sit over by me. Let's ask those questions. Or first, do you have any observations about the passage you want to make?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
This is one of my favorite passages in the Bible.
Yeah.
I've read it countless times. And yeah, I've never noticed this before. Verse 22, it says, I have given them the glory that you gave me.
That's huge.
Yeah, like what?
Yeah.
Jesus gave us the same glory that the Father gave him.
Yeah.
I don't even know what that means, but it's insane.
I mean, you know what the glory of God is in some ways, right?
Yeah, but he's God.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a lot.
Yeah.
How that somehow is supposed to facilitate like our
Yeah.
or have to be.
What else? Any other observations people want to make before we make it personal? Yeah.
This would be his last prayer. That's just really significant. The placement of it.
Yeah. So she said, this is God's deepest desire for us. And it's his last prayer because it is. Yeah. Which is absolutely why I picked this passage. Yeah. What else?
It is pretty humbling that this idea that God is inside of us and something is happening inside of us that is radiated outward. Like if we actually really think about it, that other people, where was it? People will know me because of you. Do you know? I just saw it. Now I can't find it. 21. Is that it?
Maybe one just as.
Yeah, the world may believe that you've made. They also be in us, so that the world may believe that you've sent me. That's just crazy. And I don't know if I fully believe, you know what I don't think I live day to day thinking that, believing that, but it's true that if we're actually like letting God commune in us, there's something compelling.
But the best way to prove that Jesus is real is for us to be in regularly in his presence and living like him, right?
And in the world too, you know, that it's not just meant to be like cloistered or whatever.
I'm trying to process what does it mean that we have the glory that Jesus has? Like, and I was thinking like, well, that's gonna totally change how I view myself, how I view life, right? And then I'm not going to feel like pride because I know that I have this immense glory. Then I'm like, how am I gonna go around and keep doing my boring day-to-day things and like take shit from people, right?
Yeah.
That's what Jesus did.
Yeah.
After this, he was mocked and he was murdered and he was tortured, but he had the glory of the Father.
Yeah.
And so do we.
Yeah.
It's if we will endure mocking and beatings and hopefully not torture, but we will endure a lot of bad things. But we still have the glory.
Yeah. Amen.
It's good.
That's good.
It's kind of funny for this, but I used to think of God giving like that God's glorified when we're like down in his presence and he's on this big throne and he just like worships me. But now I think his glory is like he gets up and dances with us. Like that's actually his glory not this like abstract thing that like he doesn't need it. He doesn't need
Yeah.
it. And so that he gives the story, I picture him like dancing with us, like that's what it means. That's his story, is that he wants to, like, it's not glory unless it's shared. Like he wants us to share in it, you know?
Yeah.
It's a big party.
Like a dance floor. Let's talk about it. What does it mean to be in God?
What this in the context of me in God and God in me, like how just on like a linguistics basis, there's almost a fine detail between those two where God in me is steady state because I'm a scientist. If I do things in a weird way, it's just how my brain works. But like God in me is steady state. It is constant, regardless of where I am, what I'm doing, because I have accepted Him as the Lord and Savior of my life. God is in me. Period. Statement. End sentence. Me in God is a conscious choice of me abiding in the Spirit, focusing on the things of God, resting in His will, walking in His word. So like God in me is constant. Me in God is something I have to choose every day.
Yes.
Like it's not like He's not going to be in me if I am anything. Like God does not just abandon us for being human. But being in God is a more fully alive way to be.
Yeah.
But it doesn't make God, like God being in me is not contingent. Being in God at every moment.
Yeah. Like one feels more chosen or intentional, and the other one is just kind of a resting state.
Yeah.
Yeah. Every morning I pray. For the past 2 years, I've been praying. Why am I blanking on it now? I do it every single morning.
This is not morning. It's a psalm.
Yeah, it's about being in God. Oh my God, I'm really blanking.
Your song.
Keep me safe, my Lord, for in you I take refuge. It's like I take refuge in you. Like that phrase really means like you're around me and like covering me, and I'm in you, and there's like the safety of your presence that goes before me, kind of a thing. Yeah. I don't know. What else?
Like there's like a pot full of water, sink, but it's that moment where the pool is just floating and like never hits the edges.
I like it. You reminded me of that guy that's like videoing the bag like flying in the air, and it's like, look at how beautiful it is. Yeah, what else? What does it mean to be in God? What does it mean for God to be in you?
You would just learn the light of distinction.
Yeah.
Which is extremely consequential.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for me, one of the things I think about is like there's kind of different categories of connection, I guess, that makes it helpful. And like, I think a lot of times when we say being in God, we mean like the like most spectacular connection of like I feel hyper aware of God's presence or maybe something miraculous happening. And that's like one really specific mode of connection. And it's kind of like what you're talking about, where there's this baseline state of like if you made a commitment, that's what's always happening.
Yeah. I think you're breaking down the boundary between sacred and secular too, right?
Yeah. Something else. It's gone.
It'll come back. Jump back in when you get it.
That's very calm. I just meditate on something. And I used to like just wanted me to be like a child to strong kid and strong adult spiritually, but I think at the start it's gonna be huge. And I think I really
Yeah.
because like even this afternoon I was just thinking about just the intimacy that Jesus is. It's not about the thing. He doesn't need anything. He just wants to like he wants us to not he wants us to feel safe with him and to not hide from him. And so I think when I'm in that reality, it's really safe
Yeah.
and really like I just look at flowers and grass. I just feel like a kid. Like
Yeah.
just joyful and still.
The next question, let's hit it. When you've been in God or when God has been in you, what does that felt like? What does that look like in your life?
Feels like calmness in the midst of chaos. Like,
Yeah.
like when there's conflict happening, you don't react like in an angry way, but you like you're slow to speak, quick to listen,
Yeah.
slow to anger.
Like right now. Yeah. Like right before he's getting arrested.
Yeah.
That he's praying for unity for us. Yeah.
I know.
I love that. Like being in God means you can accept the storms of life with calmness and collection, right?
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Is some of the times where I've really felt in the like God was in me or in the presence of God was in prayer, in intense times where I really needed to be praying, right? And so I was in distress about something, but then in prayer, all of a sudden feel really loved, a lot of peace, really, really loved, so much so that the distress doesn't like I don't need answers or something. Like it's not like yeah, like sometimes we go to God wanting an answer, like when we're in distress or things to be fixed. And I don't think that always comes in prayer, but it's this sense of like peace and love that is overwhelms the distress and the questions or something. Does that make sense? So that I don't even need answers. I just am content.
Anybody else want to jump in on this? Yeah, Carrie.
Yeah, my senses are different. Like not I'm thinking more of the story, but there was I just left like a conference, like a big conference, and I'd gone to and there was a family walking by me, and it was literally like the Holy Spirit was like shaking, and I almost had to like physically shake my head to get myself to pay attention. But it was like, hey, pay attention. Like, look, remember where you just were, because I can be quick to snap out of it when I get in mundane places. But it was like, listen, what is that? Oh, it's a nudge to pay attention. And like,
Yeah.
there ended up being this sort of absurdly profound, moving encounter in quality conversation. And I was like, wow, God, is this what happens when I'm soaked in you? My spirit is able to pay attention in a much different way. trying to like get my attention about something else, and I'm too. But for me, it is that like it's almost like my senses are a little bit electrified,
Yeah.
and that the world around me is it's like I'm attuned to more of what God and where God would have me go.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting. I think God probably exists in us in different ways depending on who we are too. Because I think more so I'm usually kind of amped up and electrified. But then when I'm like in the presence of God, I get a lot calmer and more compassionate and like I become a better listener. That kind of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think you know, like what you were saying, like it's different for each person. And sometimes I will get a sense that God is in me from what other people say about me. And like this doesn't happen very often, but once in a while someone will be like, why are you so calm? Or like you seem really like just joyful all the time. Like, why is that? I'm like, I didn't even notice. Like, and I like that was a week where I was like not feeling great in my walk with God either. I was
Yeah.
just like, I'm just too alive. You know?
Yeah.
And people comment that, and I'm like, God's in me.
Yeah.
I may not like feel Him all the time, but He's there.
Yeah.
He's doing the work for me.
Yeah. Anybody else want to jump in before I do my little sermon time?
There's something vital about it too. Like in the picture of like being in utero, like you're breathing amniotic fluid, so it's kind of this kind of vibe, cool water. But something vital about it that it's what feeds our spirit or like enables us to grow spiritually, to be prepared for what He has for us, to be ready for whatever He wants to do next. Like it's enjoyable, like everyone's been talking about, to experience these like different facets of ourselves. And so like while it's happening, it's wonderful and it's like necessary.
Yeah. Yeah. Would what you were thinking come back to you?
Not in a concise. Yeah.
Not in a concise way. Sweet.
I think the other thing I add is just that like it's not always helpful.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's calm and
Yeah.
joyful.
It can be conviction.
And sometimes it's like,
Yeah.
or yeah, it could be conviction, or it could be like thinking about like Jeremiah describing the birds of the fire sharpening the bones. It's like, I know you're in me, and I definitely don't want to be like, there's something, there's a way to this.
Yeah. Definitely. Right on. Here's the stuff I want to say tonight. So my goal in life is not to start more house churches. Eduardo's goal in life is not to have 80 women giving birth in a given month. Your goal in life is not to get children singing beautifully. It's unity with God. Like unity with God is our goal in life. And that includes teaching kids to sing and bringing kids into the world and starting house churches, but all that stuff is so secondary and not going to bear the weight of our souls and not like what we're eternally designed for. Like what Jesus is calling out here as he's praying, like, I want you to have unity with me. And unity with God is what our lives are about. And so if it's our central goal in life is unity with God through Jesus, then it should be in our schedule, right? If we want to have unity with God, we need awareness with God. Awareness of God. If we want awareness of God, we need time spent with God. If we want time spent with God, we have to practice something like the daily office. There's no other way, right? And I love that Scazzero says this is not about adding another to-do to an already over-jammed list of to-do, right? What this is about is it's about resetting our entire lives toward a new destination, which is God. It's about resetting our lives towards an entirely new destination, which is God. It's a completely different way of being in the world. I love that it's not 15 more minutes of work in a long day. It's a time to set the compass of your heart towards its true direction, right? And Colossians 3:23, I hope we get to study this deeper sometime soon. I've been saying this for years that like eventually we're going to study Colossians 3:23 deeply. I've been saying that literally for like 5 years, but whatever you do, work at it with your whole heart as working for the Lord. Whatever you do, Amazon packages, singing to kids, whatever that is that you do. I don't really like some kind of like management of systems. I don't know. Whatever you're doing, here's what it says. It says, whatever you do, work at it with your whole heart as if you are working for the Lord. And so what does that mean? That means you're not doing this for your boss or for the money. You're doing this for the human flourishing, and we all got to work. We all got to pitch in together. And I'm doing it to love people, and I'm working hard, and I'm working well, and I'm doing it in a way that's honest, and I'm not doing it in a competitive way that pushes other people down. I'm doing it in a way to lift other people up. My coworkers, I pay attention to them. I'm trying to lift them up, right? I'm doing my work as if it is for and to the Lord, because it is. And so the daily office is a way of living that way, of being able to say that the work that I'm doing it in partnership with God. And so the challenge here that I encourage everyone to test out, I'm testing it out also, is that if you increase the times, like I said, if you're doing 0, do 1. If you're doing 1, try to do 2. But if you can break up your day where for a few minutes you are recentering the compass of your heart back towards its real goal, that's going to do something awesome to our consciousness and to the way that we can partner with God, and the way that we can actually live in unity with God, and the way that we can break down the sacred and the secular and bring them together, right? I'm gonna have to put my code in again. Where are we? Oh yeah, daily office is, and he also talks about the Sabbath, but I didn't focus on that one, like I said, because we've already kind of hit that recently. But it's a countercultural act against Western culture, to, in the midst of a dopamine addicted, goal obsessed, busy to the brink of anxiety world, to take a minute out of that day and say, God, what are you saying? Like, to just stop and listen to God it's really different. In a culture that says that the power to live a good life comes from you, it comes from figuring out who you really are and expressing yourself to the fullest, just completely expressing your drives, to turn off the fire hose of your own human desires for a while and say, God, what do you want? What are you saying? Where are you telling me to go? That is radical and countercultural, and it's important. And the daily office is a powerful declaration about where our worth comes from, where our power to do good work comes from, and who and what is worth our time. So it's also scheduled grace, because grace is all about letting God be the power for the good life instead of your own will being the power for the good life. Like, that's what it's about. And it's not just about when you die, but it's allowing Jesus to take our place, not just in death, but in the power to live the way that we want to, or that we should, that we truly should, right? And so when we draw back and we pray in the middle of a busy day, instead of letting all the texts and everything take us over, and we say, no, like this is time where I'm going to withdraw, and I'm going to allow God's power to be what's in me instead of my own will and my own power. We're saying, God, you're the one that the power for a good life comes from. Does that make sense? Like, that's grace. And then this quote from Mother Teresa, I almost made it the passage that we read tonight. I was almost like, don't need the end of John. Let's just listen. Let's just read Mother Teresa's quote here. Obviously, the end of John is even better, but it's so good. And to back up, like we went to Calcutta, India for a bunch of well, I only went for 2 summers, but she did a lot more. But we got to work with the Sisters of Charity. Wait, yeah, you did. Yeah, it was different times. Anyway, but when we went to work with them, so I worked at this thing called Diadon, which was a home for kids that had a lot of disabilities and couldn't like feed themselves and stuff like that. And so like most of what we did is like stuff you'd see at a normal NGO. I was putting, oatmeal into, the mouths of the kids. We were playing really simplistic music and trying to get them dancing and stuff like that. But the thing that was really different than you're going to see in any NGO in the US, as far as I know, is they had this prayer time at the beginning of the day that was about an hour long that you could come and join. Anyone can come. The public can come in and you can join from the back. And it was so long. And at 20, I was like, this seems so boring. I was like, why are they doing this? This is taking so much of my time.
You were like
in my 20s, 26. In my 20s, sorry. I mean, I knew it was holy and stuff, but I was like, it was more of like a wow, like people actually do this because this is a lot. And they do one at night too, and I didn't show up for that one because the morning one was enough. But what looked to me like just kind of weird monasticism back then is looking to me more like bread for the journey. Because like look at the way we do NGOs in the US, where it's like we have 20-year-olds burn themselves out for a few years and then they move on to something else. Like that's what NGOs are here. But this lifelong commitment of service that the Sisters of Charity are doing, it is inhumane to ask that of somebody without the time to create this deep counterbalance in prayer life to allow that, right? That prayer and daily office and that kind of things are the deep roots that create the kind of love that can reach out like that. You can't go high without going deep. You know the whole thing, right? So when Mother Teresa is saying this, she's not saying something that she wasn't doing. Like the Sisters of Charity were built around this intense prayer schedule. So she says, we all must take the time to be silent and to contemplate, especially those who live in big cities like London and New York, where everything moves so fast. I always begin my prayer in silence, for it is in the silence of the heart that God speaks. God is the friend of silence. We need to listen to God because it's not what we say, but what he says to us and through us that matters. That's my favorite part. We need to listen to God because it's not what we say, but what he says to us and through us that matters. Prayer feeds the soul as blood is to the body. Prayer is to the soul. And it brings you closer to God. It also gives you a clean and pure heart. And a clean heart can see God, can speak to God, and can see the love of God in others. Clean heart can see God, can speak to God, and can see the love of God in others. That's it. And here's another thing. Mother Teresa had time to manage a globally famous NGO and to pray like that. You do too. You do too. You're always going to feel too busy. And whenever you put it off and say like, I'm just busy today, I'm just busy this week, this is like, I just have to do too much today. And I'll just wait to do my centering later. What you're doing is you're robbing from future you. I am robbing future Caleb of the centeredness that he needs, expecting him to somehow come up with the time to get centered in a way that I'm not even allowing him to have. And how am I setting it up future Caleb well if I'm not even giving him the rest that he needs to make those kinds of decisions in the future, right? And future Caleb has a lot on his plate. He's got there's book writing Caleb, there's stand-up comedy Mike Night Caleb, there's make a lot of new friends Caleb, there's start all kinds of new house churches Caleb, there's homeless ministry Caleb. I'm just getting started. There's a lot of future Calebs. I want to meet kite surfing Caleb. I think he would be great. Tiny house village in my backyard with a bar Caleb. There's bar on Kauai Caleb. There's a lot of potential bar owning Calebs, which means that there's also probably a new liver transplant Caleb that I need to get ready for. We've got commune farmer Caleb, card counting casino Caleb. I like this one. Own a zebra and a horse and breed them together and make a Zors Caleb. Right? There's a lot that future Caleb wants to do, and how is he supposed to get all that stuff done if I keep dumping all of the responsibility to get a centered life on future Caleb, right? And like, don't even get me started about Euro Caleb. That guy was such a letdown. Euro Caleb. Don't steal. Yeah. Don't. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I just think that like entering silence can be scary because it's replacing where the identity is found. Because even if it's for 5 minutes, 10 minutes, I think it can be very intimidating, and which is understandable why we put that off, because it's saying, I am Jesus is enough. And that's like that's not where we naturally are, I think, in our flesh. And so just to like that it's not this like condemning thing of like that we're not doing. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that's how I can actually perceive that.
Yeah.
Because I think we do that to try and like because we feel so unsafe, because we feel so insecure. So we're like and like trying to like work. And it's not actually like it's really just Jesus saying, like, I want to love you. And that's what is scary. And so it's understandable. Or if it takes time, just because that's such a, not only is it going against the culture, but it's also going against our own flesh. Says, I need to produce in order to sit with you.
Yeah.
Just like it's really understandable. This is a really important thing because that's basically it's like the core of our flesh is that we say we need to do something with it.
Yeah. And it's the opposite of the gospel. And so it's in deep. Yeah. The next section is titled Get Them to Put It in Their Calendars. Because you guys know what happens here. You guys get inspired for a second. You nod along, you agree with some of the stuff I'm saying, and then you have 5 minutes of good intention that gets gone as soon as we leave. And that's why preaching from a stage isn't working super well, right? What changes you is not listening to somebody say inspirational things. What changes you is habits. Habits. So we're gonna put. My challenge to you is to put something in your calendars to remind you to have a little ding. It's your daily office time. And then as far as what to do in the times of centering, here's some advice that came from the book that I'll give to you guys really quick. The essential ingredients. First is stopping. So time with God needs to be unhurried so that it can sink in. And you got to like fully stop. So usually or often I'll experience this thing where I'm like, has that been enough time? Can I move on now? That means I haven't stopped and I have to like recenter and go back, right? And then second,
What does that mean? You gotta stop.
Like, or if it's not like okay, so when I know that I have spent enough time, I don't really have to ask that question because it's like God's like, all right, let's go back, let's do the day together. But in the beginning, I'm kind of like, how quick can I get this done? Because I really want to send an email and a text, and it's like, have I done it? Oh no, I haven't done it. Like, I gotta. Does that make sense? Then second, yeah, to center on God, he gives this advice. This is the advice he follows. Be attentive and open, sit still, sit straight. I don't know why that's important to him, but sit straight. Breathe slowly, deeply, and naturally, and then close your eyes or lower them to the ground, and then just be there, right? If nothing else happens, it's at least a call to mindfulness and to pay attention to what really matters in our short lives. Like this week, at one point, I was doing this down by the water, and I was just kind of waiting, and God like reminded me that the last time I'd stood in this spot over there, Goldie was tiny and she could barely walk, and she was like playing around in the mud, and I was just like, oh, she doesn't have a baby body anymore. And I started crying, and I was like, it made me reorient my day where this got less prepared, because I was like, I'm going to spend the rest of this day like enjoying Goldie, because this is what my short life is about, right? Or another really good one is this week was when I did the daily office in the middle, I'd had a stressful conversation with somebody where I felt like I'd kind of botched it, and I felt stressed out for the person that I'd talked to. And when I recentered and was praying, and I could just tell that the stress of that was going to stick with me throughout the day, and then I was going to keep thinking about it, like, what could I have done different or wrong? How did I do that wrong or something? But when I centered, God actually said, like, no, you tried to love that person, and their life is not your responsibility, and it's my responsibility and their responsibility, and you get to be free now. And I was just like, oh, like freedom. And then so a lot of times there's problems or issues that if you just plow through your day, you're not going to have the right perspective on them. But if you can recenter for a little bit, then your heart ends up in the right place, and then you're better equipped to be able to handle the stresses that you're heading into. I think this is what G was talking about. But silence and solitude, number 3. It's best to enter with silence, and so like to do it alone and silently. And it's best to enter that silence with God just being enough and not expecting to hear anything. Hearing will be a natural result if you do this enough, but it's best not to expect to hear anything and to just think that the silence is enough. And then he also says that jumping off of a treadmill while it's moving is dangerous. And you gotta let that slow down for a second before you can jump off, right? And we need these kind of rhythms where we feel like, how could I possibly stop for 2 minutes in the middle of the day because there's so much buying and texting and things that need to get done. But to have a life oriented around God, we need to have these scheduled times for the treadmill to like slow down, to reorient, right? Yeah, we're living in a culture without rhythm, and we need to find a rhythm. And then he talks about, scripture. So most people's like recentering times have some kind of scripture involved. Psalms is a good place to start. If like most of the books have Psalms worked into them. If you get one of the books, there's a bunch of books on here, including one by Phyllis Tickle. Who named her that? Pick one of these out, like order it on Amazon during your quiet time right now, maybe, before you forget to. But
the 40-day daily office book
it's good.
is free if you're an Amazon Prime subscriber on Kindle.
Ooh, get it, and it's good. Yeah. it's well done.
Is good.
Yeah. So if you're looking for which one to start with, I'd start with that one.
I like that Phyllis Tickle one.
A website that they just compile every day's daily office, and you can click, and it has everything there.
You should send that to the Slack.
Songs and stuff too.
Slack that, bro. His other advice is like, if something is working, keep doing it, and if it is not, do not. Change it up. And then this is what you're kind of saying too, is it's important to be sort of agendaless and to enter it knowing you're not going to make God love you more by doing it, and to enter it not expecting anything from it. Like, you're there just to be with God, and that's enough. Will you like get more energy for your workday? Probably. Will you like end up getting some insights that'll help you do your work better? Probably. Will you get downloads from God? Probably. But they're not why you're doing it. You're doing it for unity with God, and it's enough. Yeah, that's it. So take it away. It's worship time.
Go ahead. Just based on varying degrees of success and lots of failure with things like this. Suggest that I found really helpful is like having one word or phrase to as like a centering point. And like it may be different every day, but like something like that. So that when, not if, your thoughts kind of wander, that there's some place to come back to. And like for me, it has been really helpful and actually really important to have some kind of timer. Actually, like, eventually it's great if you have like long stretches of time. But for me, I'm literally just distracted by is it enough time? Is the time up? It like all of that. And if I can let my mind rest enough with some kind of time, it's so much better.
We're gonna read Psalm 1 meditatively together. So I will probably go one stanza at a time, and I'll probably read each stanza a couple of times. And I invite you, in response in your own time, to read that stanza aloud to yourself. That's really uncomfortable in your heart. And just notice your responses. And the Spirit of the living God, we invite you just to cover and create space for our responses, that you see us and know us, and our responses don't surprise you. But we thank you for the power of your word. Psalm 1. Blessed is the man who does not walk in the counsel of the wicked, or stand in the way of sinners, or sit in the seat of mockers. Blessed is the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers. The good life belongs to the one who does not walk in step with the wicked, or stand in the way that sinners take, or sit in the company of mockers, but whose delight is in the law of the Lord, and who meditates on his law day and night. Whose delight is in the law of the Lord, meditates on his law day and night. The good life belongs to the one whose delight is in the law of the Lord, who spends time with the law of the Lord. That person, Lord, you invite us to be that person. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season, and whose leaf does not wither. That person is like a tree planted by streams of water, which yields its fruit in season and whose leaf does not wither. Whatever they do prospers. Not so the wicked, not so the one who does not delight in the way of the Lord. They are like chaff that the wind blows away. But the person who delights in the law of the Lord is like a tree planted by streams of water. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. For the Lord watches over the way of the righteous, but the way of the wicked leads to destruction. Therefore, the wicked will not stand in judgment, nor sinners in the assembly of the righteous. They will not stand, for the Lord watches over the way of his righteous ones, the ones clothed in the righteousness of Jesus. The way of the wicked leads to destruction. I cast all my cares upon you. I lay all of my burdens down at your feet. And any time that I don't know what to do, I will
The sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down? Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down? The sun will rise, the sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down? Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down? The sun will rise, the sun will rise, bringing life to the earth as it springs from the ground. The sun will rise, the sun will rise. Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down? Won't you dry all your tears, lay your burdens down? Thank you, Lord Jesus. You will hold all of our burdens with great pleasure and ease. And to give us back the ones we need to do something. In your holy name, we bless you and praise you. Carla, can I go longer and we sit here for a bit?
Yeah, play for us a little bit. Let's have some silence.
Okay.
And in the silence, this practice.
Don't be.
Is it okay?
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say that something that I have found in my own worship is that sometimes I don't have words. And so I'm just gonna play over you as an intercessory prayer for listening to God and knowing that God hears us and speaks to us.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Like it.
If you want, there's the questions below that we're going to talk about when we're done with the silence. You can think about those too. good. Make it a groups of 2 to 3 to talk about the question. 3.
More or less. My card there. I know, I was just saying, like, I have pretty bad habits. So I'm like teetering on 0, but I give myself like half a day. And I probably should getting up to like 1.